In today's class, we'll talk about a two-rook checkmate. Right? Two-rook checkmate is an end game strategy. So before we start a class, we talk about introductions. We talk about how we want to introduce this topic. And to introduce this topic, let's talk about the 3 stages in a chess game. The first 12 moves are called the opening, right? The next 20 to 23 moves, 20 to 20 or 23 moves, is your middle game. The last 8 to 10 moves is your end game, right? Typically, an end game is characterized by very few pieces on the board. Right? A middle game is where you have lots more pieces, but as you start capturing those pieces in those 20-ish moves in the middle, you'll be left with pieces which are either blocked, so one blocks the other, and so they're both practically useless. Or you would even have nothing on the board, just the 2 kings and very few pieces, right? So this is an example of an end game where all you have is 2 rooks, right? There's a king out there. There are of course 2 kings out there, and all we have is 2 kings. And in our introduction, we remind the kids about those 3 phases of the chess game, and then we say that. And we try to point out what a non-academy kid would do, because we want to show the difference between our teaching and what a kid would have done if there was no teaching. So we constantly harp on that topic as well. So what would a kid usually do? They'd give a check. What would you do? Go there. What would he do? Check you again. This is a very common thing in a tournament. What do they do? Run away. What did you do? Check again. And this guy is going all over the place. And what are you doing? You're constantly checking the king. And this is not a way to end the game at all. Right? If you do this, you run 2 risks. The first risk you run is you run the risk of a check draw by repetition, where you're moving 3 times in the same pattern and then it's draw. Or you run the risk of draw because of the 51 moves of no capture rule, where you have moved 51 moves and then there is no capture, and so you've lost. The game is gone. Sad part is you have a 10-point advantage. Right? You have 2 rooks, and so maybe that's another thing you want to introduce in the beginning of the game, because you want to make sure everybody knows their point score. This is 5 points, and you want to make sure everybody knows their point scores. So 2 introductions. First introduction is the point scores. Make sure everybody knows their point scores before you start. And then make sure that this is an end game, so they have to know what the beginning, mid, and end games are. And as a general rule, we need to recognize these patterns. And and every time you go from the beginning to the middle game or middle to the end game, you kind of switch gears. And if you can't switch the gears because you have not identified those patterns, then you would still be going in a lower gear. And this is where you can even ask your students if they've ever been in a car, a stick shift car, where they were just going in first or second gear the whole time. And most of the times kids would not even know what a stick shift is. And so that'll give you some interesting topics to talk about. Because you do want some topics to talk about, right? And so you can talk about a stick shift and how in the olden days there was no automatic gear shifting and all. And so if you were stuck in a second gear and you were going, explain how the drive would be. Right? Now, the way to do this, and so that is what we first talk about. That's our introduction, right? The next part of, we're still in the introduction. The next part of the introduction is if we have vocabulary for this class that is specific to this class, we talk about the vocabulary first. Now we say, the first word we want to talk about is the word wall, right? So in this particular case, there's a king up there. The king could go down, so we could also use some stars. The king could go down here if he wants, or sideways, or up there, right? So I'm going to put some stars to mark the places the king could go. The king can also go diagonally, but for now we'll stop with these 4, right? Now, I'm going to put more stars on the bottom just because I need to, right? If you have more, put them up there too. Now, if I take my rook and I move it up there. So remember, my king is on 5, is on row 5, and I put my rook on row 4. Now this rook is firing off those laser bombs, those laser beams, all across 4. So anybody comes into 4 now, any of the opponent comes into 4, they get zapped up right away. So Kids would like these words, laser beams, getting zapped up. So you want to use these words in your vocabulary as well, right? So the rook is firing off those laser beams all across 4, and if the king comes onto 4, he gets zapped up right away, and so this is off limits. 4 is off limits now. So if you see, the king is essentially limited to 5 and above. So what you have done is you've built a wall. You've built this imaginary wall. Yeah. You've actually built an imaginary wall, and this is like Humpty Dumpty. If the Humpty Dumpty sits on the wall, he'd have a great fall and die. You don't want him to sit on the wall, so make sure he stays up there, and that is how you build a wall. Now, is that a wall?
No.
For that to be a wall, you want to be as close to the king as you can. So you don't have to build a wall on 4. You can also build a wall on 6. Right, if your king is on 5. So, to build a wall, when you build a wall, what you've essentially done is, there's your wall. The king cannot go up anymore in this case, right? Did we all get the concept of a wall? Now let's have a quick test. The king is over there. Amber, it's your turn. Build a wall horizontally.
Horizontally?
Yes.
Then you would put it on 6.
Is that a good move?
No, because then the king gets you.
Ooh. Now, let's see if there's a better way. Now,
So I guess 5.
if you go on to 5 for now, then that's a better alternative. Yes.
Or you can
An
move
even
over,
better
right?
one. An even better alternative is to go further around, then go up there. But in the meantime, let's talk about this with Chris. Chris, build a wall, please. Go on 5. Take this guy up to 5 horizontally. Patrick, let's build a wall now, please. Go all the way up to 7. Right? Young, build a wall, please.
6. Go down to 6.
Go down to 6. Josh, show me the other way of building a wall, please.
Going down to 4.
Go down to 4. So we want to make sure that everybody in the class gets this. And we have a very small class here, but you'll have like 15 kids at least. Make sure you ask this question of everybody there. Everybody should know what the wall is. And now is a good time to talk about that kind of a scenario. So in this scenario right now, if you have to build a horizontal wall and you go to 6,
Isn't that vertical?
so the wall is always this way.
Okay.
So the laser beams, the direction in which you're firing off those laser beams is how your wall is directed. Right. Now if you say it's vertical because the beams are going this way, then yes, you're right.
I
But
think vertical is more difficult than horizontal.
yeah.
You want to do horizontal.
And then at the end, when in your closing remarks, you can say that the walls don't have to be horizontal; they can be vertical. Right. In your closing remarks, let's definitely mention that the walls don't have to be horizontal; but they can also be vertical. But for the rest of the class, we'll only focus on horizontal walls. So we can't go there because the king is going to capture you. So you can't build a wall on 6. So in all such cases where you can't build, what do? Well, let's go to the left a few spaces. Let's go there, 2 spaces over, so that you can build a wall next. Oh, why just 2 spaces? Let's go 3 spaces over, so you have more room. And now whose turn is it? It's the white's turn. And white goes there. Now can you go build a wall? You still can. All right, fine. Let's go 3 more spaces that side then, up to the other side. 1, 2, 3. Whose turn is it next? White's turn. Now can you build a wall? No. Which is why our next keyword is jump. When you cannot build a wall because your king would capture, because the other king would capture you, you want to go jump. And jump is to go as far out as you can without blocking the other rooks. So if you had another rook here, for example, you had another rook there, right? Then you want to go as far out as you can without blocking this rook, so you would stop just one before, right? Jump is where you go so far out so that you're much more safer there. And then what do? And then he would go the king would go up there closer, and then you would go happily build your wall. Right? So if you run into the danger where you can't build your horizontal wall because the other king would capture you, you first jump as far out as you can without blocking the other rook, and then build your wall. So when you jump as far out as you can, chances are the king would actually jump up a space too, and that's okay. You'll still get to do that. And now the king comes closer to your rook to capture him. What do? You jump again. So you jump as far out as you can without blocking the other rook. Right? So that was the second thing. Now the third thing is, well, you're not always going to be very lucky in a game of chess. Sometimes you could be on the receiving end. Sometimes you could be that white king and the other guy could have those two rooks. We will have to know how to defend ourselves against a two-rook checkmate. And the key phrase to remember is attack the closest rook. The key phrase to remember is to always attack the closest rook. So that rook there, attack the closest rook. Now we have two rooks. We have a rook on line 3. We have a rook on line 5. The king is on line 6. Visually, not numbers and all, visually, which rook is the closest?
The 1 and 3.
The 1 and 3 is probably the closest. So you want to attack the closest rook. Just go there. Never ever yield space all by yourself, because now he's going to close on his wall. He's going to build a wall closer. So never ever go back. All you do is you stand your ground and you move closer to the closest rook. Right? You want to stand your ground and go closer to the closest rook. Let's say that you're a martial artist and you're walking down the alley and somebody comes to attack you. Would you run away? You're a black belt and you know the other guy is a little kid. Why would you run away? You wouldn't, right? So the king is just the same. You wouldn't want your king to run away. You would want your king to attack, because the only piece you have left to attack right now is the king. And you want to use your king to attack the closest rook. Because now, if he goes to attack you there, or give you or build a wall there, your king is prepared. Because on the other hand, if you had gone back somewhere, you would have been caught off guard because your king was not prepared. But now, if you go closer to attack the closest rook, this rook can't even go there. He has to do something drastic, like jump if he knows how to jump. And if he doesn't, then he'll probably end up moving there, or moving there to give you a check, and you could capture him. You want to get the chance. You want to have some chances on your side too. And that's the only chance you have if you have a king left over at the end. Right? So we talked about 3 topics so far. We talked about building a wall. We talked about jump. And we talked about the defense part where you attack the closest rook. The 4th topic we want to talk about. Now let's bring these all together and let's build our strategy around these. What we do first is, let's say that it's a black's turn. We first build a wall. Pick any rook you want, right? And we'll build a wall. So we'll take this rook on 3. They're both on 3. So we'll take this and build a wall. So that's where I built my wall, right?
No.
So I'd like to trick kids all the time, or troll them if you may. And then when they all say yes, we would then go back and talk about the wall some more. Right? But it's a good idea to lead the kids off track to see if they're really going off track. Because if they don't, then you know that they really understood the concept. Right? Throwing them slightly off guard is usually a good thing. Now, I take it to the extreme, which is probably bad, because now anything I say, kids don't trust me at all. But that's too extreme. Let's at least throw them off guard once or twice. So in this case, you want to build a wall on 5 there. And now it's shooting its laser beams all the way across. And now the king is trying to attack the closest rook. And this is where I talk about my boxing. Right? Let's say we're playing a game of boxing. I have 2 hands and I have 2 gloves in my both hands. I know one of you is going to land a punch on my face. Let's say that we're in a boxing contest and you're landing a punch on my face. What do? I use my glove to defend my face, right? Now this glove is defending my face. If I have one more hand, if I use both my hands to defend my face, when would I ever land a punch? How would I win the game? How would I have any hope of getting a knockout at all. So when you're defending with one hand, what do you want the other hand to do? Go on the offense. So this is your defense. You want to attack with the other hand. You want to go on the offense on the other hand, right? Do you want to go on the offense with both the hands and just go this way? Leave your face out in the middle? Probably not. So you're defending yourself. What will you do with the other hand? Go on the offense. Now in the good old days, you know there were kings and queens, and they had forts. A fort is like a wall, right? It's a bunch of strong walls. Walls don't move. It'd be weird. It'd be really weird. And this is the example I give all the time. It'd be really weird when you go to sleep at night, and you wake up the next morning, and you're like in a Harry Potter castle where the walls are moving, right? So you don't want to be in those kinds of situations. Therefore, for that reason, if this rook built a wall, then this rook is actually like your defensive rook. And defensive rooks, which are walls, don't move. So you would not move with this. But then you have another rook. So you want to attack with that other rook. So your walls don't move, the other rook attacks. So this other rook goes up there to give a check. Right? And when that happens, what will the king do? The king cannot come straight down anymore. He's blocked by this wall. He has to go up. But remember, a really good king would attack the closest rook even when he has to run away. So in this case, he has to go back. Will he go straight back? Probably not. He'll go attacking the closest rook there. He'll still try to attack the closest rook. Now if you see, the roles have switched a bit. This was your wall. But now, the king is in 7. What rook is on 6? That rook on the far corner there, that's on 6. So that became your wall. So your walls exchanged roles. Your rooks exchanged roles, right? And so that became your wall. That's your defense. If that is your defense, then this is what you should attack with. So let's give a check with this. Not a good idea, right? So what do you do then? Jump. So you have to jump. So you jump as far out as you can. There's more sentence after that. Without blocking or getting blocked by the other rook. So you can't get blocked or block the other rook. So you just stop one line before that, right? Just stop one square before that there. What will the king do? Well, the king will follow you, attack the closest rook again. Now, that is your closest rook. You go attack. Now let's go back to where we were. We had a wall. Walls don't move. The walls don't move, and then the other rook you have becomes your offense rook, because that's your defense rook. The offense rook gives a check, and then the king has to go there. Now the walls have exchanged roles again. The rooks have exchanged their roles again. Now this became your wall. What do you do with that? You go there, and that is a checkmate. And that is your two-rook checkmate. You don't blindly check the king all the time. You have a strategy in mind. You strategically start checking the king by building walls, exchanging tokens, exchanging roles. So one rook becomes the wall now, and the next rook becomes the wall the next turn. And then you switch between offense and defense, and that's how you corner the king and checkmate him. Now there are two things to note here. The first thing is, if you're building a wall, let's say that your kings are like this. Did we build a wall here? Yes, we built a horizontal wall on 6. Now this two-rook checkmate is also called a laddering checkmate, because you're essentially building a ladder. You're checking again, you're checking again, and you're checking again. You're climbing up the rungs of a ladder. So the two-rook checkmate is also called a laddering checkmate. The two-rook checkmate is also called a laddering checkmate. Do you guys do that in the class too? Where you stop at the middle of the sentence and have them complete? Okay, because otherwise the kids would not even talk to you, and very soon they'll get distracted. 3 to 5 minutes of no talk at all, and the kids are distracted. Oh, no talk from the kids' side at all, and they're distracted. So you want the kids to constantly get engaged, at least once every 3 minutes. So everybody in the class should have a chance to talk at least once every 3 minutes. Because at 3 minutes is probably when the kids would lose their focus. They can't listen for more than 3 minutes. Right? Now, you in the ladder in checkmate, you have a horizontal wall, you give a check there. The most common mistake we do, that we see kids do, is they build a wall, a horizontal wall, and they give a check. Because kids know that you have to build a wall and give a check with the other rook. The other rook would go there. Now this is not ladder, because have you ever seen a ladder where one rung is this way and the other rung is straight up? You can't climb up that ladder. To climb up the ladder, you have to have a ladder with rungs over rungs over rungs. Not a horizontal rung and a vertical big stick and then the rung on top. That's not a ladder at all. So in this case, if the wall is horizontal on 6, your check should also be horizontal. Right? So if you break the rule and if you build a vertical check, it's not a Two-Rook checkmate. You can't finish the game this way. What's the most common mistake kids do? They're really good with building walls. They're really good with checking the king. But then they're out of sync. They have a horizontal wall and a vertical check and it doesn't work out. Right? Now there's another most common mistake too. I'm trying to build a wall. Okay? If I'm trying to build a wall, I'm going to go to 4 and build a wall, right? Now if I do this, the king is going to attack the closest rook. He can't come down there. He's going to go up there. And I'm going to give him a check. Let's go with me. Let's say that's how it is. I'm going to give him a check. What do? I can't come down here. I go there. Same thing. Now the wall is over there. I can't give a check here, so I jump. Textbook moves, I jump. When I jump there, I go attack the closest rook again, and he checks me. I can't go there because the king is over there. I can't go there. I go there, and you check me again, and I go there. Now, if you go there, that's not checkmate, because I'm hiding behind somebody's shadow. I'm hiding behind your own king's shadow. So now you're caught. You have to get your king out. You get your king out. I'm going to follow your king. I'm going to go in his shadow. And you're going to get your king out. I'm going to follow in your shadow again. So your own king is protecting me. Right? To prevent this, to avoid doing this, let's go back to where we were, somewhere there like that. When you build a wall, you want to build a wall that separates both the kings. So your wall should never be on 3. Instead, go on the 5. Because now your laser beams are separating the king from the other king. Separating one king from the other king. So when you build a wall, you want to build your wall between both the kings. So if you see what we have done, we talked about the basics first. And then we have some gotchas. And those come at the end. We don't want to talk about these kinds of stuff, these intricate details in the very beginning. We talk about the overall bird's eye view. And as you're wrapping up your class, you talk about all these other topics. Right? So we have 2 topics. One thing is, you can't have this, you want to have the wall separate out the kings. And then you should also talk about the vertical checks. This is a good time to say, checks, the walls don't have to be horizontal. Walls could be vertical too. And on that day of the class when they are practicing, they don't play a chess game. You only give them 2 rooks, 2 kings, and then the white side, the side with the king, decides where the rooks should go. So he could decide anyway. So if I am whites, I only have a king, I get to decide where the rooks go. Maybe I'm going to put them so close to me that I'm going to kill it right away. But the game starts with the black side. So what do I do right now? I have to jump ASAP. And then what? I am still attacking the closest rook. Let's say I just go 1 step there. Now I give a check. And I come down. I can't give a check yet because he's gonna attack. Do I just go here one step
No.
or there? That's the farthest I could jump. I go there, and we finish off the game just like that. Okay. So what do we do in this? In the gameplay, the side that only has one king would decide where the black rooks go. And what?
Two lines material gap. Between the two rooks, you don't want a line.
Like this, right? I'm not. Oh, that's another thing too. A very common thing we would see is something like this. You build two walls. It's very common to see kids build two walls. And why do you not want to build two walls? Because building two walls is like taking both your gloves and covering your entire face and hiding behind it. Right? You're not going to land a punch this way. So this is the other thing we want to talk about, where we want to make sure that there is no situation like this where both the rooks are on the defense building walls around. Right? In fact, if you go to the very end of the chessboard and you're doing something like this, what do you call this position?
Stalemate.
It's actually a stalemate. You build two walls on each side, and you can even have a stalemate, right? And again, it'll take some time to quickly come up with this move because I made it up right now. But at some point, you'll reach this stage, right? So you could run the risk of having stalemates too, and so you don't want to have walls on both sides. You didn't know that, did you? Okay, so that is your Two-Rook Checkmate.